20 years ago, the average NBA player brought home $2 to $3 million a year. Now, as of 2021, the average NBA salary amounts to an absurd $7.7 million a year. However, the league wasn't always like this. Michael Jordan, arguably the most influential player in sports history, was making $3.5 million a year during the 1994 and 1995 NBA seasons. If we adjust this number to account for inflation, Jordan would be making exactly $6,083,133.20 in 1995. Notice that this was during Jordan's prime, in which he averaged an absurd 30.1 points a game and led his team to the second best record in NBA history, 72 wins and 10 losses. The only obvious disparity here is the league's increased revenue year by year. So here's a chart comparing the salary cap in 1995 compared to 2021. Just as clarification, the salary cap is a ceiling that limits the total salaries a team can pay its players, and is calculated as a percentage of the league's revenue from the previous season. So it's a direct link between the league revenue and a player's salary. The salary cap in 2021 is roughly 4.7 times what it was in 1995. If we multiply Jordan's salary by 4.75, then we should get a salary adjusted to the current NBA revenue. $3,500,000 times 4.75. $16,625,000. And when we take into account inflation, that number becomes $28,894,882.71, which is a very reasonable amount in hindsight. But when compared to other NBA players, we begin to see the disparity. There would be exactly 30 players, or 18% of the league, making more money than MJ this NBA season, with the closest salary being $28,489,237 and belonging to, drumroll please, Otto Porter Jr.? Wait a second, that can't be right. Apparently, it's true. Otto Porter Jr. does make $28 million. Anyway, my point is that NBA players today are making much more money from their NBA salaries than the superstars of this league would have made 25 years ago, even when you account for the NBA's tremendous increase in revenue. This is because larger percentages of the league's revenue now go into increased player salaries, rather than to management, team owners, or development. How about the NBA compared to other professional leagues? Although the NBA is third in viewership worldwide, NBA players on average are the highest paid professional athletes in the world. You hear it all the time. People will tell you that NBA players are overpaid compared to other professional athletes, often ignoring the number of games played, size of the team, career longevity, as well as the percentage of revenue that goes to the management and owners of the team. So, are NBA players really overpaid, or is it just a misconception? Before I answer the question, I want to clarify a few things. Firstly, in this video I compare NBA players' salaries to other professional athletes, not to other occupations like doctors, firefighters, or dentists. Because in that respect, NBA players are tremendously overpaid. The only comparison I draw is across professional sporting leagues, like the MLB, NFL, or NHL. Secondly, I only take into account players' salaries from their professional sporting leagues. This excludes partnerships, sponsors, brand deals, or any other external source of profit. With that out of the way, here's a list of the most profitable professional sports leagues in the world. If you base the list solely on revenue, then the NBA would come in third. And it's not even close. However, we are forgetting a few things. Keep in mind, these leagues don't release specific financial records. These totals are only approximations of what professional sports leagues disclose through posts, articles, and statements. The average NBA team consists of 14 or 15 players. The average NFL roster, on the other hand, consists of up to 53 players. The NFL has a maximum of 1,696 players, or nearly 4 times as many as the NBA, which is capped at an astonishingly low 450 players during the regular season. In regards to the MLB, there's about 1,000 players with active contracts. This also accounts for players on the injury reserve list. If you consider the revenue compared to the size of the team, we begin to see why NBA players make significantly more on average. The second critical point that often goes unnoticed is the longevity of a player's career. Some sports are more physically demanding than others. The average NFL player's career amounts to an underwhelming 2.5 years. NBA careers on average last 4.5 years, and MLB players have the longest career average of 5.6 years. Keep in mind, the salaries that these players receive are likely their primary source of lifetime income. In an ideal system, players would be paid relative to the physical demands of their sport. NBA player careers are close to double NFL players' careers on average. Here's a chart comparing average salaries per year and average career length in the NBA, MLB, and NFL. Interestingly, the average NBA player is paid close to 10 times the average NFL player, although NBA players on average play 2 more seasons. The last and final piece to this puzzle is the percentage of the league's money that's paid to players. An organization could be making $100 million, but if management decides that player salaries are limited to only 1% of total earnings, it would not mean that another professional league making a similar sum of money is overpaying their players by divvying the league revenue 50-50. Revenue is not always a direct indicator of salary, because as mentioned before, it depends on how much the league decides to reinvest into players. The 5 main revenue generators are TV contracts, ticket sales, merchandising, brand sponsorships, and team values or investments. To understand the dynamic between management and player salaries, we need to take a look at the collective bargaining agreement. The CBA is a contract between the commissioner of the league and the NBPA, or the National Basketball Players Association. Under the current CBA agreement, which is set to expire in 2023, 50% of NBA revenue is reinvested into player salaries. The other half of revenue goes to owners, the cost of many team-related expenses like hotels, as well as other expenses the NBA doesn't disclose to the public. This revenue-based salary system works because revenue dictates salary cap, and salary cap dictates the minimum and maximum salaries, establishing a direct link between revenue and how much a team will spend on its players' salaries. Under the NFL CBA, players receive 48% of league revenue, slightly lower than the NBA. The NFL CBA also outlines an increased revenue percentage of 0.5 to players if the league's TV revenue increases by 60%. According to ESPN, lower earning players, which are roughly 60% of NFL players, operate on minimum salary deals. These players will likely get the most significant bump in pay, at least right in the beginning. Minimum salaries are increasing by around 20% immediately. The percentage of revenue NFL players will receive as of 2021 sits at 48%, or 2% lower than the NBA. Nothing much, right? Well, actually, 2% of the NFL's revenue accounts to an unbelievable $305,200,000 of supposed lost revenue when compared to the NBA. After hours of research, and I'm not joking when I say hours, the MLB CBA is insanely confusing, I came to the conclusion that the MLB pays its players around 43% of revenue. When we take into account career longevity, revenue ratio, which is the amount of money that goes to players, and the number of players in a given league, the complexity of this comparison is put on full display. Here's a chart recapping the information found in this video. The first chart compares the revenue ratio of the 3 professional leagues discussed in this video. The bottom line of the chart is adjusted earnings, which account for how much revenue players actually receive. 43% of the MLB's revenue is $4,601,000,000, ranking the MLB second, behind the NFL in terms of how much money players earn. Although the NBA makes close to $2 billion less than the MLB, the amount of money players receive in both leagues is actually very similar. In the second chart, I factor in the amount of players in the league, because obviously, the more players, the less each individual player will receive. The first row of the chart is the adjusted player revenue, and the last row is the adjusted player revenue when you account for the number of players. The last row was calculated by dividing the adjusted revenue by the number of players in a given league, producing a final total that gives us an idea of how much each athlete would receive from their league if revenue was perfectly divided amongst players. As seen by this chart, when you account for the percentage of revenue given to players, as well as the number of players in a given league, the NBA takes a convincing first place over the NFL and MLB in terms of projected player salaries. This is because the NBA has a significantly lower number of players. I decided not to include career longevity into the final calculation because it's hard to quantify injuries and average career length. However, it is important to keep career length in mind when discussing how much players should be paid. Now to address the driving question of this video. Drawing from the evidence you've seen, especially the last chart comparing league size and player earnings, I can confidently say that NBA players are not overpaid compared to other professional athletes. Thanks for watching. I'd love to hear your thoughts, so leave a comment down below. Don't forget to subscribe if you're new to the channel, and until next time.